Hi guys, former Chancellor of the Exchequer Philip Hammond is an interesting politician when it comes to Brexit. He was a Eurosceptic, but when the referendum rolled round, he backed remaining in the EU. Following the vote, he said that it should be done and dusted and no more going back into the EU or second referendums. But at the same time, he warned about the economic damage that would be done. Now fast forward to this week when he spoke to Andrew Marr about Brexit, and Philip seems to think that the EU would do a new deal with the United Kingdom. Why? Because they need us more than we need them? Have a listen.
But what we need to address is the challenge to our services sector. The UK has a very large and very competitive services business, services, professional services, financial services, creative industries. All of these service businesses need access to the European market. We need labour in the UK, whether we like it or not. If our economy is going to prosper, we're going to have to bring in hundreds of thousands of foreign workers to do the jobs that are currently not being done and which are depressing our GDP growth through the restaurants that are closed, the pubs that can't open 7 nights a week and so on. And there's clearly a deal to be done here between the European Union, which would welcome an ability for labour to move freely.
More capital as well.
Of course. But the clear trade that I see is access to European markets for British services business as of right in exchange for access to the UK labour market, which we're going to have to open to foreign workers anyway. It seems
so there's a deal to be done.
Well, it seems to me to be crazy to open our labour market to the world, which we have to do, and get nothing in return, when we could, by treaty, open our labour market to the European Union and get something very valuable to our economy in exchange.
Okay. So if I understand this correctly, Philip is saying that we could have a new deal with the EU. I don't know why the EU would open up a new deal, but let's say they do. So on the one side, the EU would gain access to the UK labour market. And on the other side, the UK would be able to access the services market in the EU. Okay, but when you want to begin negotiations or when you want to reopen negotiations, there has to be something on the other side that you can offer. So what can you offer the EU? He's talking here about a labour market. But there are two problems with that. First of all is the Tories. The Tories are the principal problem here. They won a massive majority back in 2019 on getting Brexit done and closing down the borders. So making it more difficult for people to migrate to the United Kingdom, including those who want to work there. We're talking about legal migration, not so-called illegal migration. So that's more difficult. So how are you going to fix that problem? You're going to have to bring down those barriers, but that's going to piss off a lot of racists and bigots. So how are you going to deal with that problem? And of course, the other side is you're going to encourage Europeans to move to Britain when they were encouraged to go away. You know, how are you going to undo all the toxic rhetoric, anti-EU rhetoric that has been festering over the last decade? Not even just since Brexit, but over the last decade. So how are you going to undo that? How are you going to make Europeans welcome in Britain? I think that's a mammoth task. I don't know if it's even possible to do that, to undo that toxic rhetoric surrounding Brexit. So, you know, just saying, yeah, you can come into our market, you can move to Britain, I don't think is enough. It has to be welcoming. You know, the toxic Tories and Brexiteers of the past, they have to be quietened or they have to change their minds. And I think that's very difficult, considering that the Home Secretary at the minute dreams of sending people to Rwanda. The previous one was celebrating the ending of freedom of movement. You know, what needs to change for ordinary people, including members of the Conservative Party, to distance themselves from that? I think the UK has a long way to go yet. And, you know, the best way to bring back freedom of movement is to rejoin the EU. That's the best way to achieve it, because it provides freedom of movement also for British people. Because if you have a deal where, yes, Europeans can move to Britain, but it doesn't work, if it doesn't work the other way, that's not really freedom of movement. It's freedom of movement for Europeans, but not for Brits. And of course, it would be better for everyone to have freedom of movement. Let me know in the comment section, guys, in what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.